It's midnight and you're tuning into Nightline with me, Raymond. The headlines. Anti-vaxxers will not be stopped from travelling interstate, says Health Minister. And government will not open borders arbitrarily, says Prime Minister. Good morning. Anti-vaxxers will not be stopped from travelling interstate, but will still be bound to existing standard operating procedures, SOPs, and will not be accorded the same privileges as fully vaccinated individuals. Although roadblocks will not be held at state borders, Health Minister Khairi Jamaluddin reminded the public to be sensible and responsible when deciding to travel interstate to ensure their loved ones are safe. In a press conference after visiting Kuala Lumpur Hospital on Thursday, Khairi said there was no way for authorities to enforce those who refused vaccinations to test themselves before travelling, as well as to control their movements.
Takkan kita nak ada sekatan jalan raya dan kita cek setiap orang yang keluar dan kita kalau dia tak divaksinasi kita suruh dia buat test dekat situ. Saya rasa rakyat lebih marah.
Khairi explained that allowing interstate travel was not the same as the Langkawi travel bubble, as there were too many exits to monitor nationwide, and the government does not want to have too many SOPs which would be burdensome for the people. He added what was important now was self-control as well as individual and community empowerment. He also said the government was not trying to wash their hands off the responsibility, stressing that police will continue to enforce the existing SOPs and take action against those who flout public health measures to curb COVID-19. In another development, the Health Minister said that the COVID-19 vaccine booster shots will not be made mandatory for the people. Instead, it will be offered to certain groups considered as high risk. He also confirmed that the fully vaccinated status or digital vaccination certificate of individuals will not change on their MySejahtera application if they did not receive the booster shot.
Kita tidak akan paksa, tapi kita highly recommend that these groups after 6 months, selepas 6 bulan daripada dos yang kedua, tampil untuk menerima dos penggalak. Disebabkan kita rasa ada sedikit penurunan, waning immune response daripada vaksin yang kita beri.
Khairi also revealed that all states except Sabah are projected to achieve 80% vaccination this month. As of Wednesday, a total of 20,786,568 individuals, or 88.8% of the adult population in the country, have completed their COVID-19 vaccination, just 1.2 percentage points short of the 90% threshold set by the government to open interstate travel. Meanwhile, on the implementation of the Malacca state election, Khairi said recommendations from the Special Committee on COVID-19 Pandemic Management is expected to be tabled at the Cabinet meeting on Friday. He added his ministry will take note of any decision from the Cabinet and prepare whatever SOP that is required if the state polls proceeds.
Kementerian Kesihatan Malaysia telah bentangkan pendirian KKM semalam di Jawatankuasa Pengurusan Pandemik COVID-19 dan kita akan bincang sekali lagi di mesyuarat Jemaah Menteri esok dan ini oleh kerana melibatkan bukan hanya faktor soal kesihatan tetapi juga soal perundangan dan juga perlembagaan.
In the meantime, the Malaysian Anti-Corruption Commission, MACC, views seriously the allegations made by former Sungai Udang Assemblyman Datuk Sri Idris Harun regarding the issue of economic project monopoly and sand royalty payments in Malacca. In a statement on Thursday, the anti-graft agency said it would send officers to meet Datuk Sri Idris to obtain more details on his allegations. The MACC stressed that failure to report any misconduct under the MACC Act is an offence that can be prosecuted under Section 25 of the same law. The Commission also urged anyone with information or evidence on the matter to come forward. Dato Sri Idris recently claimed that there were several UMNO leaders in the state who had been monopolising economic projects as well as cheating the federal government with regards to sand royalties. He also alleged that this was among the reasons which caused him to withdraw support for the Malacca state government, which led to the State Legislative Assembly to be dissolved and paving the way for state elections to be held within the next 60 days.
A strong COVID-19 vaccination rate, allowing the government to reopen the economy with improvement in domestic demand and continued robust exports, putting policies in the right place. Former Treasury Secretary General Tan Sri Muhammad Sharif Muhammad Qasim speaks with Money Matters this Saturday at 5 p.m. only on TV3.
The government will not arbitrarily open the country's borders to foreign travellers, as permission for entry will depend on the COVID-19 situation in their countries of origin. Prime Minister Datuk Sri Ismail Sabri Yaakob said at the moment, while the government only allows those who are fully vaccinated to enter the country, the borders remain closed for tourists.
Kemasukan warga negara dan warga asing seperti pelajar, diplomat, golongan profesional serta pelabur asing telah pun dibenarkan sejak daripada bulan Jun 2020 semasa fasa Perintah Kawalan Pergerakan Pemulihan ketika itu. Walau bagaimanapun, kebenaran masuk ini adalah tertakluk kepada SOP dan syarat-syarat yang telah ditetapkan, termasuklah keperluan menjalani kuarantin wajib di pusat-pusat kuarantin yang telah disediakan.
He added that in every decision, the government will seek the advice and recommendations from the Health Ministry based on their risk assessments. The Prime Minister was replying to Senator Datuk Razali Idris at the Dewan Negara on Thursday on whether the government had a backup crisis management plan if the number of COVID-19 cases spiked again following the spread of new variants if the borders were to be opened. Datuk Sri Ismail Sabri said there were 6 factors to be considered before foreign travellers can be granted entry to Malaysia, namely the number of COVID-19 cases recorded by their countries in the past 14 days, the incidence rate per million population, the mortality rate per million population, cumulative mortality rate, recovery index, and the cumulative total of the cases in their respective countries. He said the government was constantly improving the SOP and starting August 12th has started allowing fully vaccinated citizens and non-citizen travellers to apply to undergo the mandatory quarantine at home. Meanwhile, at the Dewan Rakyat, Dato Dr. Radzi Jidin said the rapid test kit antigen or RTK antigen COVID-19 self-test kits at schools are only for students displaying coronavirus-related symptoms. The Senior Education Minister said the self-test kits would not be distributed regularly at daily schools, unlike full boarding schools where screening tests would be conducted 3 times on registration day, the 6th and 14th day. Dato Dr. Radzi said for daily schools, test kits would only be used if students are displaying symptoms. He added if the student arrives at school looking well but develops symptoms later in the day, then the school will isolate the students and conduct the test before taking the next action.
Ini saya telah jelaskan bahawa kita telah berbincang dengan Kementerian Kesihatan dan kami bersetuju supaya sekiranya ada sebarang kes positif di sekolah, kita akan rujuk kepada pejabat kesihatan daerah dan pejabat kesihatan daerah akan menasihatkan pihak kementerian atau pihak sekolah tentang apakah pendekatan yang akan diambil.
He was responding to Jempol Member of Parliament Datuk Salim Sharif's supplementary question on whether COVID-19 self-test kits would be distributed once a week or regularly to students to contain the spread of the virus during the Minister's questions session. Dr. Razi said the self-test kit using saliva is easier and safer for students, adding that the ministry has set that only saliva test kits are used in schools to detect COVID-19 and contain the spread of the virus. He also stressed that since the COVID-19 self-test kits had to be supplied urgently before schools reopened last Sunday, the ministry had submitted an application to implement the procurement through direct negotiations on August 9th, involving a total contract value of 9.72 million ringgit. 800,000 units of test kits have been distributed to 140 district education officers and state education departments nationwide on September 25th. Also at the August House, the move to decriminalize suicide has been set in motion with the Cabinet to fine-tune amendments to the Penal Code on the matter. Second Deputy Health Minister Dato' Aaron Argo Dagang said this was after the Home Minister and the Attorney General had agreed to abolish Section 309 of the Penal Code.
Kes itu di bawah Section 309 untuk mensabitkan mereka yang bunuh diri ini sebagai satu kesalahan memang telah lama dibincangkan dan proses pun telah berjalan dan saya telah dipahamkan setakat ini adalah KDN dan Attorney General, Pejabat Attorney General sudah bersetuju untuk memasukkan Section 309 untuk sabit salah mereka yang bunuh diri ini dan peringkat sekarang ya untuk dibawa ke Kabinet dan seterusnya untuk membuat pindaan kepada Section 39 supaya mereka yang bunuh diri ini atau cuba bunuh diri tidak akan disabit kesalahan lagi.
Currently, anyone who attempts suicide and survives faces criminal prosecution, where those convicted can be punished with a jail term of up to 1 year or fined or both. Health Minister Khairi Jamaluddin, as well as Health Director General Tan Sri Dr. Noor Hisham Abdullah, are among the advocates to decriminalize suicide, both having expressed their views recently during the World Suicide Prevention Day on September 10th. The Dewan Rakyat also passed the motion on the 12th Malaysia Plan 12 MP. Speaker Dato' Azhar Azizan Harun said the motion was approved after witnessing more voice in support than against it. The motion had been debated for 4 days, beginning September 28th by 106 members of parliament, followed by the winding-up sessions by the 27 ministries involved. Among the matters raised in the debate sessions were issues related to health, COVID-19 vaccines, development of Sabah and Sarawak, poverty, impacts of COVID-19 and national water supply management. Thursday's sitting saw 3 ministries winding up the debate, including 5 departments under the Prime Minister's department. On September 27th, Prime Minister Datuk Sri Ismail Sabri Yaakob tabled the 12 MP, which will set out the country's development agenda for the next 5 years. The Dewan Rakyat sitting continues on Monday with the Minister's question time, question and answer session, bills and other government matters. After this break, couple burned to death after car skidded burst into flames. Stay with us. Welcome back to Nightline. Media Prima Berhad MPB remains committed in establishing a strong cooperation with the Selangor Police, especially in terms of delivering important information to all levels of society. Its chairman, Datuk Sri Syed Hussein Al-Junid, said this after making a courtesy call on Selangor Police Chief Datuk R. Junaidi Muhammad at the State Police Headquarters in Shah Alam on Thursday morning.
Di mana pada pagi ini kita berbincang mengenai bagaimana Media Prima boleh mengeratkan kerjasama dengan pihak polis Selangor. Di mana kita juga memberitahu pada Datuk KP kita mempunyai berbagai-bagai platform, di antara platform ini yang boleh digunakan untuk mewawarkan news-news yang ada.
Kita sentiasa memerlukan antara satu sama lain, dan saya rasa dengan kerjasama yang lebih erat akan boleh mampu untuk menghasilkan outcome yang lebih baik pada masa akan datang, sama ada dari segi pencegahan jenayah, imej kepolisian dan sebagainya.
The nearly 2-hour meeting was also joined by Media Prima Television Network's Chief Executive Officer, Datuk Khairul Anwar Saleh, and Media Prima Omnia Director of Sales, Muhammad Effendi Omar. Also present was Selangor Deputy Police Chief, Datuk Syarul Lali Masduki.
Hala 7, Kementerian memartabatkan sukan negara, dasar dan pembangunan memperkasakan masa depan belia. Segala persoalan dan kebimbangan akan saya perincikan dalam Soal Rakyat. Bersama saya, Sabtu 9 Oktober jam 6.30 petang hanya di TV3.
Nightline continues. In Kedah, a couple were burned to death when the car they were travelling crashed and caught fire in Alostar early Thursday morning. The 3 a.m. incident happened at a traffic light intersection along the Sultanah Bahia Highway. Kota Star Police Chief ACP Ahmad Shukri Mat Akhir said both victims were identified as 21-year-old Lim Gi Ying with his 19-year-old wife Tan Sun Wen. Based on preliminary investigation, it was believed the Perodor Myvi driven by Lim went out of control before skidding onto the road divider. The vehicle then hit a signpost before bursting into flames. The charred bodies of the victims were taken to Sultanah Bahia Hospital for post-mortem. The case is being investigated under the Road Transport Act. Still in Kedah, 2 men were charged at the Sungai Petani Magistrates Court with trafficking more than 50 kilograms of methamphetamine last month. No plea was recorded from either of the accused when the charge was read out before Magistrate Nurul Aina Ahmad. Hawker Amiruddin Yaakob, aged 31, and Nur Zaihan Ismail, aged 41, who is unemployed, were jointly charged with trafficking 54.72 kilograms of methamphetamine. The offences were allegedly committed in front of a house in Bandar Aman Jaya at about 8:10 p.m. on September 27th. They were charged under the Dangerous Drugs Act, which carries the mandatory death penalty upon conviction. The court then set December 8th for mention of the case, pending the chemist's report, while the duo were denied bail. Coming up after this break, Pakistan earthquake kills more than 20 people. Thanks for staying with us. On to the foreign front now. Indonesia's parliament approved a law on Thursday for one of the country's most ambitious tax overhauls, including raising the value-added tax rate next year, a new carbon tax, and cancelling a planned corporate tax cut. Speaking at the parliament after the vote, Law Minister Yasona Laoli said the law is aimed at optimizing revenue collection and improving tax compliance after state coffers took a big hit last year due to the COVID-19 pandemic. However, some business groups and analysts have questioned the timing of planned tax hikes, with the economic recovery from the pandemic seen as still fragile. The law calls for the VAT rate for sales of nearly all goods and services to be raised from 10% now to 11% next April and to 12% by 2025. It also scrapped a planned corporate tax cut and introduced a higher income tax rate for wealthy individuals, a new carbon tax, and a new tax amnesty program. Philippine Vice President Leni Robredo announced Thursday she would run for president in next year's elections in a long-anticipated decision that would bring the liberal lawyer to a potentially bruising face-off with the son of the late dictator Ferdinand Marcos. Robredo joined a growing list of aspirants for the May 9th elections after talks failed for key candidates to unite behind a single contender who would go against whoever President Rodrigo Duterte and his ruling party will endorse for the increasingly crowded race. Robredo earlier said she may decide to run if ex-Senator Ferdinand Marcos Jr., whom she narrowly defeated in the 2016 vice presidential race, sought the presidency. He registered to do so Wednesday. 56-year-old Robredo is the latest key politician to declare an intention to succeed Duterte, whose 6-year term, one of the most tumultuous and controversial in recent Philippine history, ends in June next year. At least 20 people have been killed after an earthquake struck Pakistan's southern Balochistan province early on Thursday. Authorities said the death toll may increase and that many people were killed when structures collapsed. Many of the dead were women and children. The U.S. Geological Survey said it was a 5.9 magnitude quake that struck at a shallow depth of 9 kilometers. Local officials said that at least 150 others are thought to have been injured, with several of them rushed to hospital in critical condition. More than 100 mud houses have collapsed and a large number of buildings were damaged, leaving hundreds of people homeless. Sports football, the 2022 FIFA World Cup qualifier. Son Heung-min struck a last-gasp winner for South Korea as Paulo Bento's side beat Syria 2-1 on Thursday night to maintain their unbeaten run in the final phase of Asia's World Cup preliminaries. The Koreans took the lead through Hwang In-byom in the 43rd minute as he twisted onto his left foot before shooting across Ibrahim Alma from outside the area. Syria then levelled the matters in the 84th minute thanks to a strike from Omar Karbin, who unleashed a volley into the top corner to make it 1-1. However, it was the Koreans who had the last laugh when Son Heung-min struck a left-footed volley from close range in the 89th minute to seal the win for the hosts. With 7 points after 3 matches, South Korea temporarily climbed to the top of Group A in the final Asian qualifying round. South Korea will next visit Tehran to take on Iran on Tuesday. Sports tennis, the BNP Paribas Open. Former US Open finalist and local favourite Madison Keys advanced to the second round after a straight sets victory over Kaia Kanepi of Estonia in the opening round on Wednesday. Keys got off to a strong start, taking a 3-love lead in the opening set before closing it out 6-love. The American then continued her momentum into the next game, winning it 7-5 in a tight second set. Keys, currently ranked 50th, will next play Anastasia Pavlyuchenkova of Russia in the second round. Earlier, former US Open champion Sloane Stephens came from behind to beat Heather Watson in 3 sets to advance to the second round. The former world number 3 lost the first set 7-6 in a tiebreak against the Briton before levelling the matters in the second set by taking it 7-5. The Briton, however, offered little resistance in the decider as Stephens closed out a 6-1 victory, setting up a clash with her compatriot Jessica Pegula in the next round. And that's it for Nightline. As we wrap, we leave you with this mesmerizing visuals of thousands of marbled groupers swimming in large masses in the South Pass of Fakarava, Polynesia. Let's take a look together and be mesmerized. I'm Raymond Go. Thank you for tuning in and stay safe.